Madam Speaker, we have made a special effort in budget consultations to reach out to our young people. This government believes in our youth. We very firmly believe in our youth. They are our future leaders, and it is critical for us to invest in them and harness their energy, their pragmatism, and indeed their idealism. Madam Speaker, for the 2017-2018 budget, government has allocated a total of around $964.5 billion towards the provision of quality education. This is a huge allocation, accounting for 22% of the total budget. Here is the breakdown of the significant changes for this budget, Madam Speaker. The Ministry of Education will have a total budget of $490 million. From this total amount, Madam Speaker, government will provide $5.55 million to recruit 250 additional teachers, 200 for primary schools and 50 for secondary. This supports government's commitment to improve the teacher-student ratio. The budget provides substantial funding of $170 million to rebuild and repair schools damaged by TC Winston. Madam Speaker, we expect to complete the construction in the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Apart from this, Madam Speaker, a total of $10.6 million has been allocated under the Ministry of Education as building grants for rehabilitation of schools damaged by TC Winston. Madam Speaker, we are making substantial increases to the funding allocation to support tertiary students following our consultations with them and high school students in the lead up to the budget preparations. For the National Toppers Scheme, the budget for this program will increase to $32.3 million. There is no increase in the number of new scholarships, which remains at 630, but the increase is necessary to continue the scholarships for new and current Toppers scholars. The allocation will stabilize once we have a full 4-year complement of scholarship recipients. We are making major changes to TELS, Madam Speaker, to make it more flexible and more responsive to the experience of students today. Government will no longer require TELS recipients to have guarantors. Only students planning to travel overseas will need a guarantor in the future, and guarantors who are currently repaying loans will continue paying on those defaulted loans at the interest rates that were announced when the program started. Madam Speaker, students can now change their program, major or minor, under TELS, but only once for the duration of study. Currently, they are not allowed to do that. We understand that a student's university years is a time of discovery and searching, and that should not be discouraged. If a student at 19 years of age decides to study accounting and programming and later discovers that she prefers management instead of programming, she should not be discouraged from switching her course of study. She should have access to TELS. Madam Speaker, at times some TELS students might fail some subjects. We don't want to give up on these students also. So from 1 January 2018, TELS students will be eligible to repeat a failed unit, but only once. TELS will also be extended to allow for successive upgrade of qualifications for students up to the first bachelor's degree. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that a student who is enrolled in a certificate program can now choose to continue to a higher level of qualification up till a degree. Currently, upon completion of a study, a student cannot continue in TELS for higher education until the existing TELS debt has been paid off. We are also extending TELS eligibility for students who pass year 12 and who meet the minimum requirements for certain engineering courses at the Fiji National University. We have a huge demand for engineers, Madam Speaker, and these courses will actually be able to provide us with that feed into our employment market. Madam Speaker, to provide more financial support for students in between semesters and trimesters, government now will also provide allowances for students even during that period. This will not include the holiday period in December, however. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that a semester student will now receive an annual allowance of $6,600 instead of the current $4,334. And a trimester-based student will receive an allowance of $7,125 instead of the current $5,736. This will allow the student to meet ongoing expenses, including meals, transportation and accommodation during this period. We also provide TELS students an allowance of $1,000 for incidentals and book allowance for TELS students for the first time. For students studying overseas, Madam Speaker, under full scholarship by a host country, we will increase the allowance and standardize it at US $2,400 or approximately Fijian $5,000 per annum. This is an increase from the current range of Fijian $2,500 to $3,700. This increase is to supplement the existing allowances so that the students are able to meet the cost of living in those countries. Madam Speaker, we have now given the students who reside in the university residence the option to receive the meal allowance component directly. For example, the Fiji National University currently receives the accommodation and meal allowance directly from the TSLB for students living on campus. Moving forward, Madam Speaker, the cost of accommodation will be paid directly to the university, and the remaining allowance will be paid directly to the students to be used for food or other necessities as they see fit, or they might want to eat out, or they want to buy their own meal. Madam Speaker, FERCA will now directly collect tertiary education loan debt with a simpler, more transparent and more efficient process. Because all students, when they apply for TELS, need to have a TIN number. Once they start working, that's when they pay the debt, and FERCA will have the TIN number also then too. The total funding for the tertiary education loan scheme, the National Topper Scheme and other scholarships is increased from $115.4 million to $196 million. This is an increase of around $80.6 million. Madam Speaker, the TSLB will now have an increased allocation of $2.7 million to manage the tertiary education schools and provide services to their customers, the students, more efficiently, and they now have new divisional officers in Lautoka and Lambasa, making it easier for them. We are also providing increased grants to other higher education institutions such as Montfort Boys Town in Savu and Baisari. The Fiji National University has been provided an operating grant of $56.1 million. This is to provide for teachers' salaries and to be able to attract better quality lecturers, provide for broader high-capacity internet through the Australian Academic Research Internet, or ARNet, to be available to students and lecturers alike, and improve the teaching facilities. We also are providing an operating grant of $30.7 million to USP and $3.4 million to the University of Fiji. Madam Speaker, we also wish to make an announcement on a new initiative. Government will, from 1 January 2018, give a one-off startup allowance of $300 to those degree graduates whose household income is less than $30,000 and who have registered with the National Employment Centre. This is to give our graduates the opportunity to be able to prepare for job interviews such as buying equipment or appropriate clothing. In a nutshell, Madam Speaker, all these funding allocations towards the provision of quality education total to around $964.5 million, the largest chunk of our budget and for the future of our nation. While the $170 million is a one-off expenditure for rebuilding schools, the education budget will now be the largest of any sector. An investment in our youth, an investment in creating a knowledge-based country, and an investment, as I said, Madam Speaker, in our future.